Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Public Service Commission of South Carolina. We're here for a Allowable ex parte briefing offered and presented by the Office of Regulatory Staff. Today is December the 2nd, Thursday, December the 2nd. It's 10 a.m. Present in the hearing room are Commissioners J. Williams, C. Williams, Caston, Belzer, and Thomas. Joining us virtually, we have Commissioners Irvin and Powers. General Counsel Westinger Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners, and to all who are present in person and virtually. Today, Thursday, December 2nd, we are here in the Commission's hearing room pursuant to a notice of request for allowable ex parte briefing from the Office of Regulatory Staff regarding its oversight of the South Carolina Public Service Authority, which is also commonly known as Santee Cooper. The subject matter to be discussed at the briefing today is related to the Office of Regulatory Staff's oversight for Santee Cooper and any special information on Santee Cooper's operations and an update on the statutory authority given to the Public Service Commission in terms of the Commission's responsibilities regarding Santee Cooper prospectively beginning January 1, 2022. This is a briefing and not a hearing. The briefing must be conducted in compliance with the provisions of South Carolina Code Section 58-3-260C. The requirements of the statute are in part that the allowable ex parte be confined to the subject matter which has been noticed. And for this briefing, the notice issued actually says as follows. The scope is the Office of Regulatory Staff's oversight of Santee Cooper and any special information on Santee Cooper's operations and an update on the statutory authority given to the Public Service Commission in terms of the Commission's responsibilities regarding Santee Cooper prospectively. I therefore ask that any presenters, commissioners, and staff all please refrain from discussing any matters not related to this specific topic. Secondly, the statute prohibits any presenter, commissioners, or commission staff from requesting or giving any commitment, predetermination, or prediction regarding any action by any commissioner as to any ultimate issue which either is or is likely to come before the commission. Third, I would ask that the presenters, commissioners, and staff refrain from referencing any report, article, statute, or documents of any kind that are not included in today's presentation. A copy of any document which is referenced during the briefing must be provided to the Office of Regulatory Staff for inclusion in the record, which may be certified to the Chief Clerk of the Commission, which is Ms. Jocelyn Boyd. And for correction, I mean our neutral today is Mr. John Regal, so it would be certified by him and not the Office of Regulatory Staff. Fourth, if anyone during the course of this briefing exceeds the scope or does not comply with or fails to conduct themselves within the provisions of the South Carolina Code Section 58-3-260 governing allowable ex parte briefings, it is expected for a contemporaneous objection to be made. And finally, everyone in attendance today, in person or virtually, must sign in or register. Everyone in the hearing room or watching live virtually must also read, sign, and return the form which you were given at the door when you came in today, or the form will be emailed to you for virtual appearance. The form does include instructions and a deadline for return of the form. It is required by law for each attendee, whether virtually appearing or in person, to certify that the requirements contained in Section 58-3-260C governing the allowable ex parte briefing have been complied with at this presentation. I thank you all for your time and attention, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. The docket is in order for the briefing.
All right, Office of Regulatory Staff.
Good morning, Chairman and other commissioners. My name is Dawn Hipp, and I am the Chief Operating Officer for the Office of Regulatory Staff, and I'm pleased to be here with you today. Given the parameters of the briefing, I'm hoping that we can have an informal discussion about our duties under the Act. If you have questions while I go through the briefing, feel free to stop and ask, and I'll do my best to answer those questions. I'd really like to start with some introductions from the Office of Regulatory Staff. Here with me today from our legal department is Ben Mushkin and Donna Rainey. And I'd also like to introduce our Santee Cooper Program Manager, Finley Salter. He recently joined ORS, and he will be the lead on the Santee Cooper project for ORS. And so I just wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to see him face to face. I'm sure you'll see him in the future, but we're pleased to have him on board with the Office of Regulatory Staff. It's always a pleasure to come before you, whether it be in a hearing or here in an allowable ex parte. I thought I'd take a couple minutes to, oh, here we go. If I'm not directing the pointer, please let me know. Or does it go this way? There we go. I thought I'd take just a few minutes and run through the ORS mission. You hear it often when we present to you in utility rate matters. We've tried to synthesize it down into some very salient points, and that is that we are representing all customer classes, and we're looking at the investment in reliable and high quality service. And so for customers of Santee Cooper, that will be no different. While we don't have jurisdiction over consumer complaints from Santee Cooper, Santee Cooper's customers, we do hear from them, and we try to resolve those as best as we can. As you know, our mission had changed in 2018, and since that time, ORS has been very busy. You have seen us in the last year in front of you in approximately a little bit under 100 cases. And in that time period, we saved customers over $20 million by our work in cases before you. Since ORS started in 2004 with activities in 2005, we've saved customers over $1.9 billion in utility rates. Last year alone, the ORS and the ORS staff, which is small but mighty, we're a little bit under 100, around the 80 so number, performed approximately 533 regulatory audits and reviews. You've seen some of those have been in areas that are not within the Commission jurisdiction. Today, though, I'd like to give you just a little bit of an overview of some of our other responsibilities. On the slide, you'll see our Consumer Services Department. That is a group that has hands-on direct contact with consumers of utilities. And in the last year, they recovered almost $250,000 on behalf of consumers through informal dispute resolution with our regulated utilities. They conducted approximately 40 meter accuracy tests, and they distributed almost 45,000 pieces of consumer education and participated in presentations, both virtual and in person. Our safety department, as seen on the slide, is a combination of pipeline safety and rail safety. And those two groups conducted over 400 safety inspections last year and gave 20 presentations and provided technical assistance both to the regulated pipeline companies and also the railroads. Our transportation group is a small group, but they regulate, as you know, almost 180 household good carriers and many, many more passenger carriers. They conducted almost 3,000 inspections last year and provided over 12,000 instances of technical assistance to those regulated entities and those looking to do business in South Carolina. Our telecommunications group works with customers that are hearing or speech impaired, and they distributed over 1,400 pieces of equipment. And our energy office, which is an unregulated body housed within the Office of Regulatory Staff, had reached 700 people last year with presentations while recording over $7 million in energy savings through their actions in grants or loans or working with the public. And you've heard about our broadband group. We have a newly formed broadband office under the Office of Regulatory Staff, and they've been busy with mapping, administering CARES Act funding to provide students with access to the internet during the pandemic, and are currently administering about $30 million in grant funding for infrastructure development. And those are groups that you don't often hear from, and I thought it might be a good idea to give you just a brief overview before we hit the topic at hand, which is Santee Cooper. We began our work, ORS has been working with Santee Cooper since the inception on various projects. Santee Cooper assisted us with the state energy plan, as you're aware. But back in 2019, under Act 95, we were asked to perform an evaluation of the rate base attributed to Santee Cooper related to VC Summer Units 2 and 3, and whether or not that rate base was used and useful. And that information that our staff, both our audit staff and our energy staff looked at, was used in the discussions about the procurement and what to do with Santee Cooper under Act 95. So we had started back in 2019 interfacing with the Santee Cooper team, and our actions continued in 2020. In 2020, under Act 135, ORS was requested to perform monthly reviews of Santee Cooper's activities under Section 11E, which is a fairly nebulous section in Act 135, but we were looking at 11 areas, and our review of those areas was to see if Santee Cooper was in compliance with the requirements of Act 135. We were looking at the closure of the Winya generating station. So every month, Santee Cooper would provide us a report or respond to questions that were asked by ORS, and we would take a look at the closure and their activities related to the closure of the Winya generating station, their deployment of new solar, which you heard from them about, agreements with their neighboring utilities, both operational and management agreements, their agreements with coal suppliers and transportation suppliers. We performed a review on those, their natural gas hedging arrangements, their development of new natural gas transportation and power transmission, and what activities they were undertaking there. Their purchase power agreements that were entered into or changed during the review period. Resolutions of any lawsuits, any steps they took to comply or change their business operations due to COVID-19, their financing arrangements, their debt defeasance, any sort of issuance of debt or refunding of debt, and finally, any actions that they may have taken related to the rate freeze in accordance with the Cook settlement that the company had entered into. We completed those 11 monthly reviews, and we reviewed over 10,000 pages of documents. And in that, we discovered that Santee Cooper was in compliance with the tenets of Act 135 under ORS's review. Santee Cooper had to stand up a very robust process in order to respond to the ORS information requests and provide information to ORS. Both Santee Cooper and ORS have posted that information on their website for the public to view, and we've provided you a link within the presentation to our monthly reviews. So that's historically what ORS has done within the past couple years with Santee Cooper. Under Act 90, we'll take on some new responsibilities, and we'll talk about the new responsibilities in terms of what is within the Commission's jurisdiction and what is within ORS's oversight. And so this first slide talks about the new responsibilities that ORS will undertake. In particular, we'll be looking at Santee Cooper's retail rate schedules and rate changes. So when the Cook settlement expires in 2024 time period, Santee Cooper will be in a position, should they choose, to change or adjust any of their rates, and ORS will be involved in that process. And that process, as identified in Act 90, appears to be very similar to the Commission's process for rate setting. And in substitution of the commission, of course, is the board of directors of Santee Cooper. But the legislation was careful to make sure that the process was transparent, that customers had a voice, that both ORS and the consumer advocate were involved. ORS in an audit, investigation, review, and report role, and the consumer advocate has an opportunity to participate in the process in front of the board of directors. It appears that the process in front of the board of directors related to the retail rate schedule is going to take approximately 6 months from beginning to end. The other section that ORS has responsibility over is to take a look at Santee Cooper's annual pricing principle report. Under the Act, Santee Cooper has established some pricing principles, and they have to publish those and actions that they've taken relating to the pricing principles and provide that to ORS for review and comment. And so we will begin to do that in 2023 when those duties become, I'm sorry, in 2022 when those duties become effective. Any questions up to this point? Okay. I will continue. The next slide is just a graphic of the items that the commission will consider for Santee Cooper on a going forward basis. And there are many. Many of them, Santee Cooper was added to our already regulated utility code section. And so, and those are around the service territory changes. If Santee Cooper now has the ability to make service territory changes under the purview of the commission, and so you will be seeing those in the future. Under the Major Utility Facility Siting Act, Santee Cooper was exempt from that. They are now included in that with some select exemptions for transmission related to WINYA, or transmission started before a certain time period. And so you'll see the major utility facility siting. Now, Santee Cooper does have some unique review aspects that the commission has to consider under Act 90. And those items are looking at least ratepayer risk, most beneficial. And so some of that language does not translate into your regulation of the investor-owned utilities, but is very specific to Santee Cooper. The acquisition of a major utility facility requires approval of this commission. So if Santee Cooper were interested in making such acquisition, they would have to seek approval under the Act with the commission. The commission is required to approve purchase power agreements for Santee Cooper that exceed a certain time limit. And so you will be seeing those. Right now, the purchase power agreements related to renewables specifically do not require commission approval, but commission acceptance. And the commission will have to approve any purchase power agreement greater than 10 years for Santee Cooper.
Ms. Hill,
Yes, ma'am.
under that purchase power agreement, those are just intrastate. Those are not anything that would come under FERC jurisdiction.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is an exemption or a limitation within the statute.
Thank you.
The commission will also be reviewing and approving the competitive procurement program that Santee Cooper proposes for approval. I think you heard from Santee Cooper that they have used an RFP or a request for proposal process to recently acquire solar, and it is expected that the process will look very similar to what Santee Cooper has used in the past. It seems to meet those requirements. And then finally, the commission will consider the integrated resource plan for Santee Cooper. So you're working your way through that process right now with our investor-owned utilities, and Santee Cooper will be considered in a very similar manner. Again, Santee Cooper does have some unique characteristics that the commission will need to consider related to their IRP. And they're customer focused, they're cost focused, and they're they're comparative focused. Any questions on this slide?
I have a question. When does the Santee Cooper IRP process begin, and do you have some type of proposed procedural schedule to kick off that process?
The act becomes effective on January 1st, 2022. So according to Santee Cooper's requirements in the act, they have to engage in stakeholder engagement activities prior to filing the IRP. And ORS's expectation, we've had conversations with Santee Cooper, but it's expected that those stakeholder discussions will last probably over the year of 2022, and the commission could see an IRP, after the stakeholder engagement sessions are concluded. So close of 2022, early 2023.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, just to wrap it up, we've given some hyperlinks to the commission related to things that we have mentioned in our briefing, such that you've got those to take a look at. And then I'll be short and sweet. That if anyone has questions related to our activities with Santee Cooper, I'll be glad to answer.
Good morning, Ms. Hipp. Thank you for being here today. I just have a few questions for you. Do you have any concerns regarding the working relationship between the Office of Regulatory Staff and Santee Cooper in terms of transparency, willingness to participate in discovery, embracing the new role that you all have in regulating Santee Cooper?
I don't. I think it'll be a learning curve, Chairman Williams. There was certainly a learning curve when we worked with Santee Cooper under Act 95. And then again in Act 135, we have a good working relationship with them. They've also, I think, as you heard, have staffed to be able to work on these new initiatives and embrace and learn the regulatory process. We have a successful track record working with Santee Cooper, coming out of some broadband dark fiber leasing that we've done with them, also the state energy plan, our work with them on emergency management. And so we expect to continue that. They are, I don't want to say they're excited, but they do provide high level of information and quality information when we ask questions. And they're eager to talk about things or ask questions before the issue even will come before the commission or comes to ORS's attention, and we appreciate that.
Outstanding. Could you go back to your Act 90 slide, please, ma'am?
Certainly. Would you like it on the screen or?
Yes, ma'am, if you don't mind. If you can, I don't know if you control that. Is that?
I don't know if I can. I have it in front of me, though.
They're telling me you can go back.
Okay.
One more. There, that one.
There we go.
So we have some new responsibilities here, and you said that the working relationship so far is very, very good, which is great to hear. When it comes to the matters that Santee Cooper will have to present before the commission, what can we do, if anything, because we're limited. We can't talk to them outside of the hearing room. What, if anything, can we do to make sure that if there are any questions about, say, the competitive procurement process, integrated resource plans, that there's not some type of shock, regulatory shock, dealing with a new regulatory agency? Is there anything we can do, or is that something you think that you can coach them through?
I
If they even need it, they may not even need it.
Yeah, no, our conversations with Santee Cooper have been very open and transparent. If they have a question about the regulatory process, even preceding the passage of Act 90, how would this work? What does this look like? They come to us, they ask questions, we provide them examples, links to the DMS, links to your live stream such that they can see how the process will work. I know they've been monitoring your integrated resource process. And so while it will be a learning curve, I don't think it will be a shock necessarily. I know they've been in contact with our legal department to figure out your process and procedure such that their time before you and their interaction with the commission goes smoothly.
Okay, very good to hear. Is there anything that we can do for you, or this process, areas that we could offer more?
I don't think so.
Okay. I don't have any more questions. Commissioner Williams?
Thank you, Chairman Williams. Picking up on that kind of aspect of how do we work in a smooth kind of fashion, and looking at your slides and seeing, what is being added to your responsibilities, our responsibilities, Santee Cooper's responsibilities, are there suggestions that you have regarding scheduling? I mean, we're finishing up a pretty full year, and this is just a really open-ended question, but I'm wondering if there are things that we need to be aware of from our scheduling perspective that will help ensure that smooth and a reasonable turnaround time and with answers.
It's a very good question. I'm not sure necessarily what the commission can do. What we found to be very helpful is an open and transparent dialogue prior to a filing or as the filing's being made about procedural deadlines. And so if we can have the time to have those discussions with all of the parties and present to the commission some cohesive procedural deadlines, if we're able to do that, we would like the opportunity to facilitate that with Santee Cooper as well. And that seems to help the process move along in a more smooth manner. The only other thing I could think of procedurally relates to when a hearing will be convened and how much time each party intends to spend on, their cross or putting up their case in chief. And there could be a way to look at the schedule similar to what other states do and ask parties to identify. It's not a hard and fast identification of time blocks that they see are necessary so that you can plan according to that.
Thank you. I appreciate the answer
You're
and
welcome.
the ideas.
Any other questions for Ms. Hipp? Ms. Hipp, that was a great suggestion about time blocks. Don't be surprised if you see that in the future. Is there anything else? All right, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.